Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Skeeter Harris with Parallels and Mac Village Productions. With me is Kurt Schmucker from Parallels as well, our Senior Product Manager. Today we're going to do an introduction to Parallels Desktop Mac for version 10. Just a little background, Kurt is the Senior Product Manager for Parallels. He's been with them for a little over 2.5 years now. Prior to that, he worked both at Apple and Microsoft for about a decade each, and he's written several books on object-oriented programming for the Mac, along with being the program manager for Virtual PC. You might remember that product that Microsoft had years ago that was actually a product developed by Connectix that was then subsequently renamed to Virtual PC. And as such, welcome, Kurt. We're excited to be on the Hangout today.
Thank you, Skeeter. Looking forward to it also.
Excellent. So again, as the topic for everybody that's joined or that are watching, it is the introduction to Parallels Desktop 10 for Mac. Please leave your questions, if you will, on the side. If for some reason you can't leave a question on the side, then just leave them in the comments of the Google Hangout itself, and I'll be scanning that while we're going through the presentation, and we'll address your questions. Since it appears the Q&A function, for some reason, I didn't enable it prior to the Hangout starting, so it won't enable it now. So with that being said, Kurt, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great. Skeeter, just make sure that my screen is showing. Is it?
Yep, looks good, Kurt. Can read it easily.
Okay, great. So I'm real happy to show you Parallels Desktop 10 this morning. I've got a couple of slides to start out, but I'm going to spend the vast bulk of my time doing a live demo. And as Skeeter mentioned, questions are always welcome, so please do go ahead and post them or send them to Skeeter some other way, and he'll be the filter of when he interrupts me to answer a question. Happy to do so, not a problem. So, as was mentioned, we're going to talk about Parallels Desktop 10 for Mac that came out just a few weeks ago. We talked about the development of Parallels Desktop 10 here at Parallels. We sort of had a number of goals in mind. And the focus areas were things like, as we have in the past, focus on integration between the two OSs that are running, the Mac OS and typically Windows. We always, of course, want to improve performance of Parallels Desktop. We also had a focus on both features for developers and IT pros, as well as sort of IT admins. We're in a state now where our new version of the Mac OS is coming out shortly, and that's Yosemite. So of course we wanted to do what we could to bring features from Yosemite over into Windows, and I'll show you some of those later. You may not be aware, we also have an edition of Parallels Desktop specifically designed for enterprises, so-called Parallels Desktop for Enterprise Edition. And we wanted to focus on the needs of those users also, and so we put some features in there that I'll talk about later. So I wanted to put together a demo that would give some features that everybody would see were useful to them. And so what I did was structure a demo around different groups of users. So Parallels Desktop has literally millions of users around the world. And so in a population that large, there's always a number of brand new users who are using it for the first time. We wanted to make Parallels Desktop even easier for them to get started with. But of course, at the other end of the spectrum, we have advanced users who have been using Parallels Desktop for a long time. They want complete control over it and want to do a variety of new things. And so we've added some features for them also. An important use of Parallels Desktop for Mac users is to run some Windows games that aren't available on the Mac. And so we tried to add some features for gamers also. And then the biggest catch-all are features that are of importance and of great use to all users. And I'll try and show you those. In the interest of time, I can't show you every single feature in Parallels Desktop, but I'll do my best to answer your questions. And at the end of the demo, I'll show you a few more features I didn't have time to show in the live demo. So with that, I think we've been showing enough slides, and it's time for a demo. So what I'm going to do here now.
Good choice.
So what we've done to help people who are just starting out using Parallels Desktop is change the way it presents itself to the end user, even at the level of the dock and the Finder. And so, of course, Parallels Desktop is here in the dock, as you see. But What you might not notice is Windows is also in the dock. All the VMs that I have are listed here in the dock, and I can start them just by clicking on them like this. And this kind of makes sense because the things in the top half of the dock, as you see on my screen, are all things that run on the Mac. Well, Windows runs, so shouldn't it be there also? And so we think this is a more logical way to present Windows to and Parallels Desktop to new users. And so we changed the way it appears in the dock like this. You can, of course, just drag documents to that dock icon like this and launch them in that version of Windows. As you see here, I have WinWord running, showing a document. I'm not going to go over all the features of Parallels Desktop that are still present in Parallels Desktop 10, but if you've been a user in the past, all the features we had there before are there. So I can do things like scroll the document by using the trackpad on my MacBook Pro. I can pinch and zoom to change the scale factor of it. And in general, all the features you've known to use and to love in Parallels Desktop earlier versions are still, of course, here in Parallels Desktop 10. But I'm going to focus my presentation today on the features that are new.
Hey,
so,
Kurt, one of the features I think that's worth highlighting is as you were literally launching that Windows XP in real time there, for those people that are either running or have run version 8 or version 9, version 10 significantly increased boot up times on virtual machines, which is great as well.
You're right. The performance is an important thing we always try to add to a version of Parallels Desktop. It's hard to show that in a demo if you haven't used Parallels Desktop before. So I purposely include things like booting OSs and starting applications to show you how snappy it is. Now, I probably should show you what I'm running on so you know what to calibrate yourself. I'm running on a MacBook Pro from about 2.5 years ago, so I think it's pretty reasonable of the installed base. And I happen to be running Public Beta 3 of Yosemite, so you sort of see where I am. I wanted to run on Yosemite so I could show you the Yosemite-based features that we have in Parallels Desktop. Okay, so first thing we've done with new users is put Windows actually in the dock and also all the other OSs you're using. And we believe this is a more logical thing to do. Now, as I mentioned, Parallels Desktop has millions of users, and those millions of users all have different needs across the application. So over the years, the number of parameters and settings that Parallels Desktop has increased. And that's great for experienced users who know exactly what they want to do, but can be a real burden for beginning users who have no idea what to do. So to help those users, we've made a change, and I'll show you how you see that change here when I would install a new virtual machine, for example, in the new virtual machine wizard. When I say I want to install a new copy of Windows or some other OS, I continue, and the Parallels Desktop will find the installations, the installers for various OSs on your drive. I'll pick this one here for Windows 7, and it will notice that this is a version of Windows 7 that doesn't require a product key because it's Enterprise Edition, and I'll continue, and here's the new feature. And the new feature is you basically tell the installer what you're basically going to be doing with Parallels Desktop and with Windows. And we will set the parameters and the various settings correctly to give you the optimal performance on your machine. Now, most users are going to say they want to do basic productivity applications. So you see that here. But some users are going to want to be gamers, some are going to want to be software developers, and so with this single button, you can now set a whole bunch of parameters in the background to give you the optimal setting. This was originally designed to help brand new users who are starting out for the first time. It's also extremely useful for expert users. For example, I might set software development as my primary use during the day for my virtual machine. But when I go home at night, I might change it to games so I could play a Windows game on my MacBook Pro. So even an advanced user will find this an easier way to make changes like that in terms of your basic usage. I know how to go in and change the dozen or so settings that are needed to go from software development to games, but this is a heck of a lot easier to do. And so this is one of the other things we've done for brand new users. but it also carries over to advanced users. Another thing we've done is change the way your list of virtual machines is presented to you. And we have a little bit bigger screenshots, which is nice, thumbnails, which is nice. But in addition, the list of VMs actually gives you some functionality. I can start or suspend a VM with this button here. I can get its configuration dialog here. And I can get the state of its antivirus settings here. That's really important because probably the most asked question of me when I give public demonstrations of Parallels Desktop is, will I catch a virus on my Mac if I'm running Windows? And so we know people care about that a lot. And so we wanted to bring right to the very front the state of your virtual machines so you'd know what you could do. And from here, you can actually click on that button and install an antivirus package in your Windows virtual machine or on your Mac. And so hopefully that bringing this to the front will assuage people's fears of this issue and help them progress with using Parallels Desktop. So those are some of the kind of features we added to specifically focus on people who are new users to Parallels Desktop. And I hope those features are useful to them. Let me move now to advanced users. For advanced users, they often have a wide variety of things they want to do in Parallels Desktop, and they often are using applications that go to the very edge of what you want to do when you put a Windows application in a virtual machine. So we have increased the settings for you to add CPU power and memory to your virtual machines. On my MacBook Pro, here I have a setting where I can go up to 7 of the cores on my MacBook Pro, or increase the amount of memory dedicated to a virtual machine up to near the max of the 16 gigabytes that's available in my MacBook Pro. And that's great. So I can fine-tune a virtual machine to give me the performance I need for the specific application, especially if it's a high-performance application that I have. Now, of course, you can't have more CPUs assigned to a virtual machine than exist on your hardware, and that's why you only see a limit of 8 here. So I asked a friend of mine who has a Mac Pro to give me a screenshot of his system settings, and you can see that here, that this user happens to have assign up to 15 CPUs to a virtual machine and up to the full limit of 64 gigabytes of RAM to a virtual machine. But when you do this, those hardware resources are exclusively available to that virtual machine. And that's why there's a limit, of course, there. And so the limits in Parallels Desktop 10 are exactly what you see here. 16 CPUs and 64 gigs of RAM can be assigned to each virtual machine if you wish. Now, if you play with this, be careful, because if you give too much power to the virtual machine and not enough to the Mac, if the Mac is starved for RAM or the Mac is starved for CPU cycles, everything gets really slow. So you have to be careful when you do this. That's why it's more of an advanced user kind of thing. But I think this control and this ability to specify the exact resources you want dedicated to a VM is actually a very useful feature.
Hey, Kurt, just to point out there, first off, in order to change either the amount of RAM allocated or the number of virtual CPUs, the virtual machine actually has to be stopped in order to do that, correct?
That is correct. So, good point. Very good point. Let me show you one other thing we did primarily for advanced users. So, especially among our advanced users who are developers. For a developer, it's often really nice to have a wide range of virtual machines you can do testing in. Suppose I'm doing a website and I want to test how that website works in IE 9, in IE 10, in IE 11, on Windows 7, on Windows 8, so on. So I'm happy to tell you that Parallels was able to partner with Microsoft to have virtual machines made available to its advanced users as 90-day Windows trials. You get them by going here and clicking on the Modern IE test environments, and you click to continue, and it'll tell you a little bit about those environments, and of course you'll want to accept the Microsoft EULA. But when you do so, then you have a wide range of virtual machines all ready for you to download. They're really great. They're all set up to run in Parallels Desktop. There's no installation necessary. You just click here, it downloads, and in a few moments you're ready to run. Now, the few moments depends on your internet connection, of course, but these are not small downloads. These are between 3 and 9 gigabytes in size. They're good-sized downloads, but they're free. And so if I wanted to test my website or my app that I'm doing in a variety of different OSs, I can do so here. And I've done that in my virtual machine list. I've added a couple of those VMs, and you can see down here at the bottom, I have Internet Explorer 10 and Internet Explorer 7 as VMs I've downloaded from Microsoft. They're 90-day trials. And they start and they're ready to go just as would any other virtual machine. You do have to think about the fact that they are trials and they will expire at a certain time. And unfortunately, there's no way for you to convert that virtual machine to a paid, perpetually licensed Windows VM. You just can't do that. But you notice here, you see a note in the desktop, tells you exactly about the virtual machine, that it's a trial, and reminds you of that. And so that's a great thing to have in these VMs. But for developers, this is absolutely fantastic. So they can get these VMs, install them, use them, test their software, and then when they get near the 90 days, they can just throw them away.
Hey, Kurt, just to build on that, what's nice about them over just downloading them directly from the Microsoft site is that these are a single file. All the individual files are bundled together so that it does the automatic extraction, and it truly, with one click, builds that virtual machine then for the developer. And as you did, as you stated, they're only good for 90 days, but you can easily remove them and then certainly reinstall in the future if you have other projects that you're testing.
You're exactly right, and I really want to thank my Microsoft colleagues for putting it together in such a great way that it really is a single button install for Parallels desktop users. And I think for our advanced users and for our developers, this is a really great feature to add to Parallels Desktop 10. Okay, those are the two things I wanted to talk about for advanced users. For gamers, I want to mention a couple of other things. So for gamers, we've done a couple of things. We have increased the amount of video memory you can assign to a virtual video card in a virtual machine.
Kurt, if you can increase that screen just a little bit bigger, that would help.
If I could, I would. Unfortunately, that's a dialog you can't resize.
Okay.
I'll just say that now it goes to 2 gigabytes you can assign to a video card. We did this for several reasons, but it turns out there are some applications and some games that won't even launch if the video card doesn't have this amount of memory. And so that was an important thing to do for our end users. We also, of course, have our support for DirectX 9 and DirectX 10. You can pick which one you want. And then the last thing we did, which I think I can show you a little bit easier, is a lot of my gaming friends will go out and spend a lot of money to get exactly the mouse they want with the 14 buttons that'll let them control this game the best way possible. And so we added support for multi-button mice in Parallels Desktop directly. So in Parallels Desktop 9 and earlier, you couldn't do this. In 10, you can. So you can actually use the 4th mouse button and the 5th mouse button here. Now, the application has to give you that capability. So Windows by itself and Office doesn't have the ability to do anything with the 4th or 5th or 12th button on the mouse. But now, if a game does want that, you can do it in Parallels Desktop. We'll pass that through to the game. And so that will help gamers, I think.
That's Kurt, that's huge. If you are a gamer, real-time strategy games, Borderlands, some of the first-person shooter games, you really have a strategic advantage, especially if you want to do the alternative weapons and those kind of things. And having a mouse that allows you to do that with this control is really should be a big bang for the gamers out there.
Completely agree. Completely agree. And that's why we did it. So now I want to move to a couple of features that will be, I think, will be useful to all developers or to all users of Parallels Desktop 10. You may know that when you install a virtual machine in Parallels, there's what we call a virtual disk image. It's like the C drive of your Windows device. And that file on the Mac will grow as you install new applications and generate new data, and that's really great. So it's an expanding disk image. That's wonderful. In Parallels Desktop 9 and earlier, if you were to remove applications or remove data, the disk image would not shrink. You could have free space there. It's just taking up room on your Mac's hard drive and giving you no benefit. You had the ability to open up a configuration panel and manually remove that free space and get it back to the Mac, but people forgot to do this. So what we did in Parallels Desktop 10 was we added a new wizard that gives you the ability to control the space on the Mac taken up by Parallels Desktop. And there are a number of areas where these could be important. And you see 4 of them listed here, the things that take up the most amount of space. But the one that I think that deserves the most mention is the disk space image, the disk space of the drive image. This could really get large. There are users out there who I've met who have 100 gigabytes, 150, 200 gigabytes in their drive images, and if they've done a lot of work there, erasing stuff and so on, they can have a lot of free space. And to recover that's very important. So what we did in Parallels Desktop 10, and this was one of the bigger engineering tasks by the team, was in addition to making hard drive images grow automatically, they also shrink automatically. And I thought that this is so important, I thought I'd like to show you this actually running in Parallels Desktop. So what I'm going to do is bring up the configuration dialog for this virtual machine. I wish I could make it bigger on the screen. I can't. So, and you see this is about 41.3 gigabytes in size. Okay, great. I'm going to copy a big 4 gig file into this virtual machine right here. And as that gets copied over, you will see the size here increase. And that's increasing, and it's still increasing. And in a moment, can't see it. In a moment, that'll be 43. Now it's 43.8 gigabytes. Soon it'll be 40. Now it's 44. And now it's almost 45. Which is exactly what you would expect. So that's great. That feature has been in Parallels Desktop for many years. But here's the part that's new. If I take that file and throw it away and empty the recycle bin, what will happen is Parallels Desktop in the background is watching that file, and when it sees free space in your drive image, it'll automatically reclaim it. And now you see the size has gone down for that virtual disk for Windows 7, and now I'm back to what I was before. So that, it might seem like a small thing, but this will reclaim lots of disk space for people out there using Parallels Desktop automatically without them doing anything. And so I think it's actually one of the more immediately useful features, especially if you're on a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro with solid-state drives, which typically aren't as large as a rotating disk. So disk space really matters now, and having 4 or 5 gigabytes of empty space you can reclaim is actually very important.
You know, Kurt, as that runs, what's neat about it is that it does not act like a normal compress function where it just throttles the CPU to the point that you can't use the computer. It truly runs as a background task, and you don't even notice the performance impact on it.
You don't even see it, and the only way you can see it is what I did here is bring up this dialog. If you're doing stuff, you're launching Word, you're doing things, you won't even notice that happening in the background. It'll just automatically, you'll get your space will be reclaimed. It's really, really useful feature, I think. Now, another feature, or set of features that we really like bringing to Parallels Desktop is when we bring goodness from the Mac OS over into Windows. And we've done that a number of ways in earlier releases, and we've increased that and added to it in Parallels Desktop 10. So, as an example, you know the feature in the macOS Launchpad, that you click over here, and the background screen gets blurred, and you see the applications you can launch. Okay, that's a nice feature. Why don't we bring that over to Windows? So I'm going to launch Windows 8 here. Here's Windows 8 running. And all I have to do to make this feature work is put Windows 8 into coherence. And when I do so, I now get that same sort of look in the Mac for Windows 8. So the back of the desktop is blurred. I see the tiles of the various applications. I have my Windows 8 Start page available. If I click on one of these, that will then launch the application. You'll go back to your normal screen. Or if I click on the background here, you go back to your normal screen. So basically, we've brought Launchpad over to Windows. Now, it's only in Windows 8, but I think it's a really useful way to make the Mac and Windows feel very similar. I think we'll people to feel more comfortable using Windows apps on their Mac and to blur that dividing line between the two OSs.
Hey, Kurt, I think that's a really cool feature. One of the things that I just wanted to make sure that our audience is aware of is that you've heard Kurt mention coherence mode, and what coherence mode is, for those that might be new to Parallels Desktop for Mac, is it literally eliminates or hides, if you will, the whole Windows Explorer interface. So instead of seeing the operating system in this sort of self-contained window, it makes it so that the Windows desktop along with the taskbar completely disappear. And when you see a Windows app running next to a Mac app, it really blurs the lines between the two, so it provides a tremendously seamless integration between the two platforms.
You're exactly right, Skeeter. That feature's been in Parallels Desktop now for many years, and it turns out running in coherence is the most popular way to use Parallels Desktop among our users. So by bringing that feature over into Windows 8 in coherence, we think that will help people a lot and feel like the Mac and Windows are just sort of seamless and things are working there the way they expect as a Mac user. Another feature I think will help all users is what we call cloud sharing. I'm sure many of you are using various cloud services, from iCloud to Dropbox to other services, and these are really great. I use it myself. I use Dropbox. I've been a Dropbox user for many years, and the way Dropbox works is it keeps a file or a folder on your system synchronized with the contents of the cloud. Absolutely great. We did, however, notice that some of our users in earlier versions of Parallels Desktop had installed Dropbox in the Mac and in Windows, which meant they had two folders being synchronized in the cloud. And therefore, they were doubling the amount of storage needed on their Mac to store those files, and it was an unnecessary duplication. And so that's a concern. My Dropbox folder is almost 2 gigabytes. That's a lot of extra space. So what we did in Parallels Desktop 10 is we continued the notion that we call cloud sharing. So you can see here, Dropbox for the Mac is listed here as a already mounted system available to you, and iCloud Drive and PhotoStream. And similarly on the Mac, you have SkyDrive or OneDrive available to you, and the C drive of your Mac, C drive of your Windows environment also as a mounted remote server available to you. So in Parallels Desktop 10, we've continued this and we've increased it, and we've done the following. If I open up a Office application, and so for example, I go here, and I go to Save As, I'll actually have those folders available for me right in the Save As dialog of Office applications. So I can save right to Dropbox. It's as if Dropbox is shared automatically between Mac and Windows if you're a user of Parallels Desktop 10. What do you have to do this? Basically nothing. If you install Dropbox on your Mac, the sharing here will happen. There is a setting to turn it off if you don't want to, but it's turned on by default. as I think it should be. Similarly with OneDrive. If we notice you have OneDrive enabled in your Windows virtual machine, we'll automatically share it with the Mac. So we're trying to make that cloud work for both environments, but not have unnecessary duplication of storage, which eats up space on your Mac's hard drive. Now, okay, so those are the things I wanted to show you. We also, of course, as I mentioned, want to bring some of the coolness of Yosemite over to Windows. So the Yosemite features that we're going to show you today require both that you're running Yosemite, and to see the feature in its full glory, you also have to have an iOS 8 phone. I don't have one yet. Mine's in the mail. I'll get here in a week or two. But Skeeter, who's always on the cutting edge, he, of course, has a Windows iOS 8 phone, and he's going to show you some of the features we've brought over from Yosemite into Windows. So Skeeter, take it away.
Okay, Kurt, thank you. So one of the first features I thought I'd show is we've incorporated the share mechanism from Mac OS X into Windows. So here I am on CNN's tech website. It looks like we got a big solar storm coming to Earth. So Kurt, we may want to batten down the hatches here. And basically what this allows you to do is to highlight a segment of text, right-click on that text, and then on the bottom of the screen you get the share on, and I get my social messaging share buttons here. So if I wanted to tweet this, I could actually click on Twitter. That will pull up a dialog box. It's using my Twitter account that's already defined on Yosemite, and I could actually tweet this. Of course, I'm longer than 13, but you certainly can see the idea here. Again, I can take another segment of text or even a link, and maybe I want to share that out to LinkedIn, and I'll get the LinkedIn dialog box as well, which is really great for getting things out there on the social networks there.
So, Skeeter, we aren't seeing the pop-up menu.
You're not?
Shows Twitter and Facebook and things like that.
You're not seeing that at all?
Not at all.
Well, thank you for the heads up on that. I'm not sure. That must be an issue with but you're seeing my web page, correct?
Absolutely. I see you highlighting text. But what we're not seeing is the fact that when you right-click on that text, you get a standard Windows pop-up menu, and we've appended at the bottom of that the social sharing applications from the Mac that you're using. So you've configured. So it could be Twitter, Facebook, whatever. But all you have to do is enable those on your Mac, and those things show up in the right-click menu.
Yeah, let me try one other feature here. Let me minimize that. We'll see if this works. Do you see my my same web screen, Kurt?
I do. And I see the cursor, and you're just highlighting some text. I see that. And there it is. Great.
Okay, so the trick, Kurt, for future reference is I actually had to share my entire screen, not just the Internet Explorer app.
Makes sense.
With Google Hangouts, so that makes sense. So, okay, so just to repeat this, I highlight the text that I want to share. I right-click, and then I've got my share button. And now notice I can share to mail, I can share to messages. We'll pick Facebook this time. And now you should see the Facebook share dialog. I can share it with friends, different groups of people, or the public. There it is. Then I can click on post, and that would actually post it out to my Facebook timeline at that point. So that's the share feature. Another really great feature is, and one of my favorite features of actually Yosemite, is a feature called continuity. And if you're not familiar with continuity, what that promises to bring to iOS 8 and the Mac is the ability to find, say, a phone number and actually either initiate a phone call through your Wi-Fi network to your cell phone, assuming both are on the same Wi-Fi network, or you can even do messaging. But as an example here, as a gamer, I'm on the GameStop page, and I want to see if the new Destiny's out as an example. What I can do is I can highlight that phone number for this GameStop location, right-click on it, and now I have the ability of actually call this number, which will initiate the continuity feature within Yosemite, to actually start an audio FaceTime call, which is the way that mechanism works. And hopefully you can see the dialog box up here that's appearing. So you want to make this call. I click on call. and it will now initiate a phone call because my phone is actually on do not call mode. It's on airplane mode, but it would then initiate a phone call, which is really a great feature where you find a phone number and you want to be able to initiate a call right from within Windows.
And the beauty there is that's a really wonderful Yosemite feature, and you were using it from inside, i.e., inside Windows. And so that's an example of bringing Yosemite goodness over to Windows and Windows apps for PD users.
Agree, totally agree, Kurt. Back to you at this point.
So those are the things I wanted to show you. So we've tried to bring over to Windows a variety of great features that integrate between the Mac OS and Windows. Now, in the interest of time, I couldn't show you everything. So I want to just mention, of course, that Parallels Desktop 10 is available now in retail, or you can buy it off our website, and there are the prices there. If you're a new user, full product. If you're upgrading from an older version, and if you're a student, we have a special price for students. But I couldn't show everything in my demo, so I thought I'd do a real quick set of screenshots to show you things I didn't show you today in my live demo that you can then later explore. So we have the notion in Parallels Desktop of adding badges to applications, even Windows applications. So for example, if you use Microsoft Outlook for your email, then Outlook will be badged in the dock, and we'll show you the number of emails that you haven't yet read. And this is a great feature. It's also a feature some people want to turn off. So right here you can see how you turn it off. You say don't badge the app icon right here, and you can turn that feature off. If you like it, there it is. It's there for you. We also have a feature for those of you who are in fact changing settings and stuff in Parallels Desktop, or you're supporting somebody who is changing their settings. Maybe you're helping your brother or your mother run Parallels Desktop, and they've had a difficult time doing something. Maybe you want to figure out what they've done. You can go back to the exact defaults of the virtual machine with one click of a button, and that is really useful in debugging and in helping people through problems.
Hey, Kurt, do you have a screenshot that you were going to show?
Oh, sorry. I thought I was sharing that. I guess I wasn't.
No, it jumped off, I think, when I switched off. So you might go back, and if you want to show that screenshot so they can actually see it.
Gonna try. Thank you, Skeeter.
No problem. And by the way, if you're looking to ask a question, don't forget to leave a question on the event, and I'm watching that. So if you do, we can address it. The Q&A feature just was not turned on properly when we first started, so apologize again for that. But by all means, leave a question, and we'll answer it either on the call here, the Hangout right now, or after the fact.
So to make up for my lack of screen sharing, I'll show you the little badge for Microsoft Outlook. It shows up in your dock to show you how many email messages you have unread. And if you don't like that, you can turn it off right here in the standard notifications panel in the Mac. If you want to go back to the default settings for the virtual machine because you've messed something up inadvertently, or you're helping somebody who has messed something up and you want to go back to the default, it's now just one button click. That's really great. If you want to find a file, you're using a file, you've got shared folders turned on, you can see that file on your Mac, but you don't know where it is in Windows. We have added to the standard right-click button on the right-click menu on the Mac a reveal in Windows command, just like there's a reveal in the Finder. And those are very useful for finding files when you have many different places to store stuff. Yosemite adds the notion of plugins or extensions to a number of areas in the Mac, including Notification Center, Spotlight, and Quick Look. And so we took advantage of that. So we have such plugins for Parallels Desktop, and they show you things about your virtual machine, either and give you the ability to maybe control some parts of it, like start it or stop it, see its performance, things like this. I think those are great features to add to the Mac OS. We also will show you in the Notification Center. You can see when you get little notes about things that that you've set the Notification Center up to tell you about. You can add Parallels Desktop there, and it will give you a status and a performance for virtual machines. As I mentioned, we integrated the Security Center with the old VM list. We now call that the Parallels Desktop Control Center. You see a bigger thumbnail of the application running, and you can see its status in terms of there's no antivirus in this virtual machine. That's kind of dangerous. And here in Windows 8.1, you have Kaspersky installed. So that's great. For those of you who are really geeky and you want to run a virtualization application inside a virtual machine, we call that nested virtualization. It's a, like I said, a very geeky feature, but if you want it, it's there. And I actually did a demo for Microsoft where I ran the iPhone emulator and the WinPhone 8 simulator side by side by making use of this feature. And for a developer, it's really, really great. Or for somebody who just wants to do it for just the fun geekiness of it, you can run a virtualization application inside a virtual machine in Parallels Desktop 10. We've also added contextual menus in the Finder, so you can do things like start your virtual machine right up easily from just right-clicking on it, and you get these new commands that let you do things with the virtual machine. Again, here too, we're trying to integrate the differences between Mac and Windows and make it as seamless as we can for the user, so it feels natural to a Mac user. And those are the things I wanted to show you today. I hope you found this useful. And as Skeeter mentioned, if you have questions and you can't add them to the chat for this Hangout, then please go ahead and post them, and we will answer them on YouTube. Skeeter, that's all I had planned to say today.
Okay. One thing I did want to share with folks, since you're on the call and watching, is that from the marketing side of Parallels here, if you go to our Parallels page on Facebook, now through Thursday, the team is actually running an iPhone 6 giveaway. So you're welcome to participate in this. Basically, we're looking for how you decorate your iDevice, whether it's an iPhone or an iPad or certainly a laptop. And what you can do is you can submit a picture. You can see that we've actually have several of them here already, and you can get people to vote on them. Looks like Deepan's got 11. We got Ryan at 14. So we got some pretty good folks here. But again, you're welcome to participate in that if you'd like. Again, thank you for watching. Sorry about the little difficulty, but leave your questions since we're out of time, and we can certainly address them on the event Hangout itself. If you have other topics that you'd like Kurt and I to cover, we would certainly love to hear what your thoughts are in terms of things you'd like to see us cover for either technical sessions or more how-to type sessions. Again, thank you for watching, and we look forward to you joining in the future. Kurt, anything else?
Nope. Thank you very much. Thank you, Skeeter, and thank you everybody else for attending.
Okay. Bye now.